Well, welcome to the channel, Dr. Samuel Jones. I'm excited today to be sharing with you why you have to lose to win. Now, I know if you think about that, whenever I think about that title, I was thinking about the Chicago Bulls when they had Michael Jordan. And of course, that was my team when I was a little younger. And I remembered how they struggled. They couldn't get past the Detroit Pistons. And I remember when Michael Jordan hit that jump shot on the Cleveland Cavaliers at the buzzer to go to the next round of the playoffs. And I was a little kid and I was so excited that yes, they're going to the next round. Well, in the next 2 or 3 years, I can't remember, but they couldn't get past the Detroit Pistons. And I was so disappointed every single year. And I can remember how Michael Jordan got to the place of where he was working out. And when he finally broke through, I could see the confidence. And today what I'm going to be talking about a story with Ruth and Naomi. Now, if you're familiar with the story, if you really want to get the backdrop of the story, go in the Bible and find Ruth chapter 1. It'll give you a great story background as to how we got to where we are today. Today, we're going to be starting from the chapter number 2, and I'm going to read verses 1, 2, and 3. And the reason why I want to do that, I want you to hear where we are and where we're trying to go, because again, why you have to lose in order to win. So I'm reading from the King James Version. So let's dig in. It says, "And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech." Now, in those few verses right there are 3 things today that I'm going to be talking to you about why you have to lose to win. And those 3 things are now go, glean, find grace. Now let's talk about those 3 things real quick here, because it's so important that sometimes, we want to win, but a lot of times we really have not paid the price up front. And I am convinced that when you recognize and that you have learned how to lose some things, and sometimes even losing some people, wow, you can really appreciate when you have opportunities that are right before you. Sometimes we can get so focused on what we've lost and who we've lost that we can't even see the opportunities right in front of us. As I've shared before, Naomi, she lost her husband, she lost her 2 sons, and she even lost one of her daughter-in-laws because one of her daughter-in-laws went back home in the span of 10 years. And of course, Ruth, her daughter-in-law with her now, she lost her husband. She lost her brother-in-law, and she also lost her father-in-law. So as I think about that, and now they're in this place to where there are some opportunities. And I don't know where you may be in your life, and I don't know what you may have lost, but I promise you, right where you are right now, there are some opportunities. But if you now go, if you figure out how to glean, and if you find some grace, you're going to win right now. Let's dig into it. So the first strategy is now go to the field. Now, who wants to go to a field now? But I promise you, if you were in Ruth's and Naomi's situation, you wouldn't matter where you had to go. You would go to the field. So there are 4 things about going to the field. Number 1, Ruth took the initiative. When you're talking about now going, you don't have to wait for someone to tell you. You don't have to wait for the perfect time. You don't have to wait for all the tools and all the resources. You're not worried about your confidence. You're going to take the initiative. And so that's what I love about what Ruth did. She said, I'm going now, and I don't care what the situation is going to look like. I don't care who sees me. I don't care who knows me. I'm taking the initiative. The second thing was she chose the right field. You see, sometimes people say, well, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And they don't even think about where they're going and who they're going to talk to and who they're going to work with. But Ruth got with Naomi, and Naomi said, you know what? There's a man who was related to my husband, and he is wealthy. And you know what Ruth said? That's the field I need to go to. I don't know what opportunities you're pursuing, but you need to make sure it's the right opportunity for you. Okay? Number 3, so when you do now go, make sure that you listen to wise counsel. You can't be taking advice and insight from everyone who has an opinion. You know, one of the things that I tell college students when I'm working with them and they're coming to school as a freshman and they don't have a clue as to what they want to major in. And then some of them come to school and they say, well, I think I'm going to major in this. And I say, well, why are you going to major in that? Well, because my parents told me to major in that. And I tell them, chances are when times get tough and it gets hard, you're probably going to change your major. And they say, why is that? Because that's not something you want to do. You see, wise counsel will challenge you and make sure to point you in the right direction. So this is what I tell students who are coming to college and they're trying to find the right major. I say, number 1, find something that you love to do. Find something that you're passionate about. Number 1. Then I say, number 2, find something that you'll possibly be willing to do free. They say, well, Dr. Jones, I'm trying to make some money. And I say, I get it. It's not about the money, but it's about the love. You see, the things that you love to do, money don't matter. But if you can line it up to the things that you love to do and that you can get paid to do it, oh my goodness, now you have found that perfect piece, right? And then the last thing that I tell them, I say, get some advice from people who love and respect you and who is going to be honest with you, right? Don't be taking advice from people who are not trying to do what you're trying to do, who you don't look up to, who you can't learn from. So Ruth recognized that, you know what? My mother-in-law, I've been with her, and this is her home. She knows how to operate here. I'm going to listen to her. So make sure you listen to wise counsel when you now go. And then last but not least, when you do now go, embrace the opportunity. Right? Don't complain about it. Don't think about what you don't have. Don't talk about how hard it is. Don't compare yourself to what everybody else is doing. You know, Ruth was like, you know what? I'm going to embrace this opportunity. And that's what she did. She showed up. And when she showed up, she showed out. How do I know she showed out? Because Boaz heard about her and then Boaz saw her. And I'm telling you, when he saw her, he started asking questions. He said, who is that girl right there? You see, that's the kind of, when you now go and you embrace your opportunity, there are going to be people around you saying, who is that? Wow. Hold on. Is that the one that I've heard about? Now I heard about her. Now I see her in action. That's what you want to do. Okay. So when you now go, now, once you do go, you got to learn how to glean. Now, the scripture talks about her gleaning corn. Why is that so important? Just thinking about if you need a lot of things and it's so small that all the things you have to get to build up something, and that's what she had to do. The gleaning process. Now think about it. They didn't have a machine. They were doing this by hand. So think about the tedious process. And it talks about how she was a hard worker and she worked from sun up to sundown, inside and outside. So when you glean, here are 3 things that you need to do when you glean. Number 1, when you glean, make sure that you are connected to a source. You see, Ruth was connected to something bigger than her. She recognized that Naomi is giving her so much wisdom and insight, and she's put me on the path to make sure that I have the source, that we have the source that we need to survive. And not just survive, to thrive and have some success. Because if you read the end of the story, she worked and she worked and she worked, and Boaz saw that, and Boaz became more interested, and before you know it, they're married. Okay? So number 1, when you glean, make sure you glean at a place to where you're going to have a source to be provided for you, number 1. Number 2, as you glean, you need to make sure that you showcase your commitment. You're going to be on front stage. The spotlight is going to be on you. What are you going to do? Are you going to complain when it gets tough? Are you going to show up late? Are you going to complain about what you don't have and what everybody else is doing? Oh no. Ruth was like, you know what? This is my opportunity to showcase my commitment. Not just my commitment to the gleaning process, but my commitment to my mother-in-law. You see, in the chapter 1, she told her mother-in-law, she said, you know what? I'm committed to you. As a matter of fact, I'm so committed to you. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. Your people will become my people. Where you die is where I'll die. You see, she was committed. You see, we can't just talk about being committed to people. We have to showcase our commitment. And that's what Ruth was doing. And I love that. And not only do I love that, but I love how everyone heard about Ruth being with her mother-in-law and taking care of her and providing for her. So again, when you glean, that's going to happen. Then, of course, last thing, as you glean, when you glean, it's going to be a symbol of acceptance and inclusion. I want you to think about this. During those times, the farmers, if you had land and you had harvest on your land, plants on your land, you were recommended to leave the corners of your fields, to leave those for those who were in need, those were the poor, those who were vulnerable. And guess what? She was committed to that. And you know, she didn't say, well, I'm too special to go out there and glean in this field. That's beneath me. Have you ever seen some people that they're in a bad situation or a challenging situation, and in their mind, they're too good to do certain things? Oh, I can't do that. I can't wash the dishes. I can't mow the grass, or I can't. It's just some things I'm not supposed to be doing those things. You know what Ruth said? Bump that. I'm going to glean. And I don't care who is out there, but also, you know, she didn't mind just falling in line as to what everybody, because people were already out there gleaning. Ruth didn't show up and say, well, I'm going to go first. I'm going to get in front of everybody. She just fell in line. And so she recognized that, you know what, I'm okay with doing exactly what I need to do to make sure that I take care of my mother-in-law. And I'm telling you, when you learn how to glean and operate and work from that mindset, it's going to make a difference. People are going to see you, and they're going to see you in a totally different light, because they're going to see you different than everybody else. Because most of the time, everybody else is moaning and complaining. They're doing half work, and they're doing, you know, it's not excellence. Ruth, she showed up and she said, you know what? Now that I'm going to glean, and I'm going to show y'all how to really glean. And I love that. And then, of course, the last thing is, so once Ruth was able to now go, she gets in the field, and now she is gleaning. And the third one is find grace. Because she said, I'm going now, and I'm going to glean. And the only reason why I'm doing this because I want to find grace with Boaz. Now, how did she find grace with Boaz? Oh, there's 4 things that she did in order to find grace. And I'm telling you, if there's an organization that you're trying to work for, if there's a client that you're working with and you're trying to find grace, here are 4 things that I want to encourage that you do. And matter of fact, you're already doing it. You may not even know that you're doing it. Here are 4 things. Number 1, focus on your character. And your character is how people know you. They perceive you based on the work that you've done. You see, Boaz recognized Ruth's character. He heard about Naomi coming back home. He heard about she lost her husband, she lost 2 sons, she lost one of her daughter-in-laws. And he also heard about one of her daughter-in-laws came back with her. But you also know what he heard? He heard how Ruth was committed to her. He heard how Ruth was committed to excellence. And matter of fact, he heard about Ruth was even working in his field. So Boaz is like, oh my goodness, I got to meet her. I got to see her. Is that her right there? I want to meet her. I want to have a conversation with her. And so your character, what people know about you in terms of the work that you've been doing, your results, and not only that, they've been aligning that to what they see and when they have a conversation with you. So if you really want to find grace with people, oh my goodness, work on building your character. Number one. Number two, her work ethic. Oh my goodness. She was committed to excellence. What about you and I? How do you show up? Do you show up 10 minutes late? Matter of fact, when you show up late, do you call and let someone know that you're late? Right? What kind of work do you do? You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. So yesterday, I was doing a training session with a client, and in the morning, I had two sessions. I had a session on anger management, and in the afternoon session, I had a session on communicating what matters most in difficult conversations. So my sessions normally start at 8 o'clock. So I'll usually show up at 7 o'clock. Well, yesterday I showed up to the facility at 7 o'clock and no one was there. I was like, this is not right. And so I said, let me walk back to my truck and look at the agenda that my client sent me. Well, I look at the agenda, and the agenda for me said start time is 9:30. And I was like, okay. Well, I checked out of the hotel. I said, let me see if I can go back and go to the hotel and just go over my notes one more time. So I get back to the hotel, go back up to my room, and on my handout, you know, I had scribbled so many notes on it. So I said, let me get one of the handouts that my client, that the attendees will use. And so I go back and get two of those handouts. I get back to my room, and I sat down and I look at the handouts, and I realized that the place that I used to print my handouts, oh my goodness, my pages were out of line. Page 1 was page 4, page 2 was page 3, page 3 was page 1, and page 4 was page 4. Right? It was just all whacked up. And in that moment, I got upset. And it's amazing how I am preparing to do anger management, and now I'm upset because there's something now I can't control, that I have 125 handouts. No, not 125, 250 handouts, because I did two sessions of 125 people, and all of my handouts were printed incorrectly. Well, guess what I had to do? In that moment, the techniques that I was going to share with them in terms of anger management, I had to practice those techniques. I thought about calling the store that printed my handouts and complain. And I said, Sam, no, just own it at this point. So I show up at the meeting yesterday morning at 8:30, and I'm putting the handouts on the table, and they introduce me at 9:30. I'm walking up, and the first thing that I do is I tell them that story, what I just told you about my handouts. And I told them how this does not represent me and my work. However, I did tell them that I'm taking full responsibility for it. Why? Because when I went to pick those handouts up, when I went to pick up the handouts at the store, it was on me to look at them, and I didn't. You see, when you own your mistakes and not blame someone else, people recognize that. And so I promise you, Ruth's work ethic. So you're not always going to be perfect. And when you're not perfect, own it. And I'm telling you, Boaz, he recognized and saw how Ruth, she worked and she took care of her mother-in-law, and she was able to find grace with him, because you know why? He said, you stay with these folks right here. You stay in my fields. Don't go to anyone else's fields to glean. You stay here. And as a matter of fact, he told everybody else, told all the men, don't touch her. Leave her alone. She was able to find grace. And I promise you, when people know your work ethic and know you practice excellence, you'll find grace. Then the third thing that she did in terms of finding grace, she was humble. I mean, when Boaz came to the field and had a conversation with her, and he told her, listen, I'm going to take care of you. You stay here. You glean in my fields, and I'm going to provide protection for you. She didn't say, well, thank you very much. And I was expecting that. Well, you should have been there and done that. She didn't say that. She bowed to him and said in so many words, who am I that I should receive such grace from you? She was humbled. You see, that's what we really need to learn how to do is be humble. When people are helping us, be humble. Appreciate people. Don't be on a pedestal. Ruth was not on a pedestal. She humbled herself. So if we want to find grace with people, humble ourselves. And then the last thing is, and I just mentioned it a second ago, she found grace by Boaz providing her protection. I mean, think about it. Two women, they've lost their livelihood. They lost their breadwinners, lost all the men in their life, and now they're back home. And here it is, a man who is wealthy, seeing the reputation, hearing the reputation, recognizing that, you know what, they're in need, but just their humble spirit, I'm going to provide her protection. And this story just really does something for me. So I don't care. So if you're out there today and you're sick and tired of just losing, you're just tired of losing, and you think your whole life is all about losing, and every time you try something, you're losing. Think about this story right here. Just think about this story. And in this story, just do these three things. Now go. Go to your field. I don't know what your field is. I know what my field is. My field is doing this type of work right here and coaching and training people and walking alongside people and helping them to see life a little bit different, to see their opportunities a little bit different, and to recognize that they can overcome the challenges of everyday life. They may be stressed, they may be burnt out, but I know that's my field. That's my field in helping people to reframe and renew their mind and to see things differently and to apply different things to their life. That's my field. But I don't know what your field is. But whatever your field is, now go. Don't think that you have to have a degree and you have to have experience and you have to have titles and you have to have tools and you have to have all these possessions. No, just go. And when you go, the field is going to be prepared for you. You just have to adjust yourself for the field. And so now once you do go glean, go to work. Don't look at everybody else. Don't think about everybody else. Don't compare yourself to what everybody else is doing. Don't look at what they're doing and how they're doing it and what they should be doing. No, you focus on you. You focus on providing for the folks you need to provide for. Ruth was focused on providing for Naomi, and she was focused on doing the best job that she could. So that's what you and I need to do. We need to, now, once we go, let's go glean. And once we now go and once we glean, we'll find some grace. We'll find grace with those clients that we work with that we tell them this is our fee. And the clients say, you know what? Well, I don't have that fee. What's the best that you'll do it at? Some people say, well, that's your fee and you should never come down. Sometimes I agree with that and sometimes I don't. You see, it's all about the value that I can provide. And if the value that I can provide to meet that client's need, if we're in alignment and we're in agreement, oh my goodness, all that stuff really doesn't matter to take care of itself. You see, you have to make decisions for you and yourself and your business and your family. At the end of the day, you have to lose to win. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't want to lose. But I promise you, when you have lost and you can't even control something that you've lost, there's still a desire for you to keep winning. And you'll never lose that desire unless you just subconsciously etch it out of your mind. But I promise you, God has designed us to win. And I promise you, if we just now go, if we glean, when we find grace, we'll win. Because we're always winning. It's up to us to see that we're winning. Listen, I hope this video is helping you. It's definitely helping me. If you know someone out there who is struggling with, now going to their field and gleaning in their life and finding grace, share this video with them. They need it. Okay? This is always exciting for me to share what I'm learning from the Bible and what I'm learning from my work with clients and helping people to transform now. I want to do more of that. And so the fact that you're watching this video, thank you for watching this video. And I pray that this is helping you to transform now as well. to get you the results that not only you want and you desire, but the ones that you deserve. Listen, it's been an honor. Look forward to seeing you on the next video. Talk soon.